Alrighty, we're recording. Cool. Okay, so what we're looking at here is a picture in my sketchbook, magical book of designs and sketching and things. What you got here is an exploded diagram of my V2 version of my house. Now that I've worked with the version 1 for a few months, done a few experiments with heating and stuff, minus insulation at this point, pushing about as far as we can into the colder weather here in New Zealand without using it, sort of finding out, where it's needed, how much is needed, why, blah, 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 stuff like that. Experiments with air conditioning, with my power, now as we're moving into the time of year where we have lower sun angle and less of that sun. The existing power system is beginning to run out of batteries quite often and things like that, so I've had to go to the house and AC wall charge my battery banks a couple of times now, which is really annoying, and I'm also using their power quite often to top up my headphones and my tablet, which I'm using to film here and stuff, so we're not very self-contained. That's no good. Also, after living in here for quite some time, in the space, I've discovered that I'm not going to go ahead and put in a shower and toilet unit. It's expensive, it's heavy, and I don't need to do it. If I were to be living, out in the middle of nowhere in a forest or on a farm property or something like that with this unit, I would use an outdoor solar shower and possibly use my gas cooker to heat water for that. In less good weather, and just do some sort of outdoor lean-to jobby for that. And I'm really quite happy to just piss outside and crap in a bucket and do things of that order. I just don't really feel the need for mod cons for stuff like that. And the only reason I built version 1 with standing room in it was so that I could put a shower in, and that was why we built a mezzanine up there that I used to sleep on. But it's only 600 wide, 600 millimeters wide, so that's it's pretty skinny. And it was workable enough. Now it's currently being used as a storage shelf with basically nothing on it. Point being that I don't need the upper section space in V2 version 1 rather. It's there. What it's doing, on top of the fact that I have got no insulation, I'm now heating twice the air volume that I need, because I operate and live in the lower section of the space under the mezzanine here. I've found that having a desk in a chair is kind of pretty unnecessary. I'm pretty happy to sit on the floor and just put a book on my lap and use that for drawing on and doing my various projects, and just have a couple of construction boards to stack into the shelves and whatnot for working on little model airplanes and drones and things like that. The storage space I've got available in the shelves is adequate and good. I have spare shelves. There's, an empty one down there and an empty one up there pretty much. I know I've got some clothes chucked on there at the moment. I've also got a 60-litre plastic storage container, which is currently on the loft above me at the moment, but in version 2 that will just go outside, and that just contains paint and tools and a bunch of stuff that was sitting in shelves in here that just gets used for construction projects and stuff, so it can live outside in a box. That's fine. So with version 2, which is what we're looking at here, that's an outside view. This sort of clear section on the top is one of the drawings I did for where I might put tarpaulins for a tarpaulin basically that'll create eaves above my door and entry area, so that I can sit in the doorway and smoke and get in and out of the house in pissing rain weather without having to go inside with my grubby shoes on and shit first. So yeah. Oh, before we get further into this, I have a stoke up today. I went and bought myself a bed. Over the luxury. On the loft above me I was just sleeping on a foam mat, and then when I decided to ditch that and experiment with using the downstairs area only with a view to potentially creating the smaller structure that V2 will be, I pulled up the carpet on the floor, I put all of the foam mat under the carpet, and then I relayed the carpet again, and I've been sleeping on that and like an extra wee thin bit of foam. Not particularly comfortable. I haven't owned a bed in years because I used to live on the street and stuff, so anyway, I went and bought this mattress I'm now lying on. You can't really see it because the carpet's dark grey and the mattress is black, but yeah, it's very cushy. I'm quite stoked. So tonight is my first night sleeping on a bed that I own in my own space for fucking, I don't know, 5 years or something. I'm very, very stoked and very, very comfortable. Anyway, back to point. So the floor plan that we're working out with this one here, and as you can see an exploded drawing up here, there's the floor, is the same floor. I won't be modifying it all. That's the one module out of V1 that's getting no modifications at all. So on that floor plan, which is 1200 wide here, 1200, all my measurements are in millimeters, by the way, because that's how we do building here in New Zealand. So if you're an American, well, catch up with the rest of the world. 1200 millimeters across there, 2400 millimeters along there. So for all the Americans, that's about 4 feet by 8 feet. Now on the existing structure on this floor plan at the moment, up this way, we're about 2300 millimeters, and at this end, 2400 millimeters. There's a bit of a lean on the roof, which vectors all our rainwater quite usefully, and I mean that in the most sarcastic way possible, past all our doors and windows over here and up there. So that's one of the things we'll be addressing with version 2. I'm actually going to go with a flat roof, with a very slight lean on it possibly, but basically a flat roof, because I've realised with such a small space, put some eaves on it, let water run off this side and this side, where there's going to be no windows or anything like that. And then, as you can see here, we're going to have a flexible tarpaulin type thing. Possibly some of this area here might actually be done in wood, but this area here will be done with tarpaulins. Now that allows me to adjust the angle of pitch on that during the day for shade and sun and, you know, crappy weather, various other things. This whole section here actually will be set up with a thermal lining on the inside, so that when you fold it down at night and it covers the windows, it also puts some reflective through the windows and helps insulate them. The other thing I'm going to do is put all of my solar panels roped into this tarp section as well. And the two windows here, as you can see over here on this wall module, will be facing towards noonday sun. Currently, these doors there are facing at morning sun pretty much, and that little window up there faces away from noonday sun, so not really the best layout. In summer it was kind of cool because it kept things cool and shady, but hey, we can do that with a tarpaulin. And in winter I really want to get a bit more sun in here. So yeah, we're doing that. As you can see, these two sections here, so that one's my door, that's just a window, are getting rolled over 90 degrees on their side to create this wall here. The smaller window that I just pointed to earlier that faces away from noonday sun is getting cut in half, across its length, made much shorter, and that will become my entry door. So on this wall section here, which is this one down here on the non-exploded diagram, this is 1200 across by 1200 high. 1.2 meters high on the inside, so this new structure will have sitting room only. One of the things I've discovered is basically if you want to stand up, it's because you're going outside. So why am I building a structure with standing room in it? I really don't need it. And I've been experimenting now for a few weeks using only the downstairs section of the V1 unit to verify that, and I'm absolutely sure of it. And I really don't need standing space. And I always like the, you know, Japanese capsule hotel type thing and stuff. And obviously dropping to half the height on V1, due to the loss of wood and framing and all the rest of it, I effectively will lose about half of the weight of the structure. Not quite, but close enough. So the rest of it in this thing, this little bit of edge here that you can see that I've put in this area, that's the new mattress that I've just bought. So that's 1800 long by 900 wide. That's a very easily comfortable space for me to sleep on, and just enough space to put two when my girlfriend decides to come and stay with me. If she's coming to stay with me, I don't think we'll be mind being bunched up, because we won't be doing a lot of sleeping. So that's all good. A little bit cozy to be fair, but you know, that'll be fine, I'm pretty sure. And if she doesn't like it, oh well, we can just go to her house. This section here is that shelving unit, and the one behind my head, they're identical. Well, apart from the shelf layout, but yeah, the two units that are basically the same that I bought kit set. They are getting linked together and whacked on their sides, just like the windows are, to create a 1200 high, 1500 millimeter long shelving unit on one side, and then obviously on the other side we've got partial wall and partial windows beside the bed there. What that ends up creating in this area here, just where the entry is, as you go through the entryway, is a 1200 wide by 900 space in front of the bed, with a little bit of extra space there by the shelves, compared to what I've currently got, which, as you can see, especially now I've got this mattress in here, very little space by the door. So we've got no mud room really. Like, you kind of step in the door and stand in this little edge bit here on the mat, spin around, sit down on the mat, on the mattress, take your shoes off, and then throw them in the corner here under the, well, you probably can't even see that, but in the corner there under the desk, you know, where there's a bin and things like that as well. So in this new design here, I'll have a lot more space to be able to get into the house, take shoes off, drop your jacket. I'll probably put a rack over here somewhere or something that I can hang towels and coats on and stuff, which will usefully be right by some of my air conditioning vents. The main extractor vent will be in the top corner of the shelving unit through the wall, and my main intake vent will be pushed through this wall here, or possibly even through the door unit, but probably through the wall, because you know, if I want to use the door for ventilation, I'll open the freaking door, won't I? I'm also going to probably build like a little bit of decking outside to sit just underneath the front door area. I'll be propping the unit up on small foundation like posts or something like that. Currently I'm just sitting on tiles on the deck, so my subframe under my floor is sitting only like, I don't know, at maximum 50 millimeters or about 2 inches off the deck. That means if we get flooding or rain or anything like that, we start getting damp way too close to my floor frame. One of the things I'll also be doing with this design is inspecting the floor frame to check for water damage and stuff. Assuming we don't have any problems, I will just give it a bit of a sand and a bit of a clean, and then I'm going to seal it the hell up and paint the snot out of it and really, really solidly waterproof it. I may also tack on some sort of breathable membrane. I may insulate underneath it, although I am finding the one place I have got insulation, obviously at the moment, is I've got about 20 millimeters of material of various rubbers, wool and foams with my carpet and my underlay and stuff, and that is actually proving quite good insulation for the floor, so I'm probably pretty happy with that. But yeah, we'll be addressing the floor frame a little bit and stuff like that, and then instead of just like a little ply doormat that's only, you know, like 2 feet wide by 1 foot kind of thing, like, sorry, back to metric, 600 by 300 millimeters, I'll have a much larger area with a mat on it, but where I can go dump shoes and dump my toolbox and things like that, and that'll be sitting under this eave area here as well. That'll be created either with a tarpaulin or some wood, so that, yeah, we just, the whole process of getting in and out of the place in shitty weather is a lot better. And I've got like a little bit of an outdoor area as we've drawn here. I might even make some little random plank decks or something for putting a seat outside and, you know, having a bit of cool like that. Construction wise, we're going to create, obviously, as I've said, the floor is pretty much unmodified. This wall here, the wall that doesn't have anything on it, it's just structural. Instead of being made out of 2 big bits of ply and a whole bunch of framing, will be one piece of standard size ply, so 1200 by 2400, with some minimal framing in the corners here and shit, but otherwise primarily supported by this bookcase. The end wall is, here's 2 modules. We have one basic little wall module with a bit of framing, and then the door with the frame around it as a separate module. The other one is just a flat wall module as well, but that partially links into the bookcase as well, so it's only got a little framing here that you can see in the darker areas. There's funny bits of square shaped shenanigans there and there, by the way, just me sort of showing where I've got walls that I can actually display art on and things. Over at this end, on the side, that wall will be constructed largely out of these repurposed doors, and they're like a 50mm cedar and stuff. They're pretty freaking solid already, so a little bit of support framing underneath to get them up to the same height as the bookcases and make everything the same size, and then there'll be some ply and framing at this end to fill out the rest of the length. Point being that we will end up with, the first thing I'm going to construct before I actually build the house is the modules. So instead of just whacking everything together like I did with version 1, I'm going to have a floor module, and this wall module, and that wall module, and this one, and this one. I may, once I've constructed them, stick them together with larger, heavier duty bolts and retain the ability to actually strip the unit down into, you know, a few modules. Obviously there's a roof module goes on the top as well. But the more I think about it, because I'm going down to a much smaller size, or half the size, and dropping the weight, this structure I'm in now weighs about half a ton, or close enough to it. It's between 400 and 500 kilograms based on estimates of getting huge guys to, or 4 huge guys to lift it at one point when I had to shift it a little bit, and based on what they reckon they can lift and blah blah blah, we reckon we're dealing with about 400 to 500 kilograms, What I want to do is get it down to about 200 to 300 kilograms, because at that point, a few guys can easily lift it. The smaller size will also enable it to be easily lifted, just because the bulk factor and stuff is less. And all going well, I should actually be able to slot a heavy-duty sack burrow with wheels, obviously, into one end of it, like probably that end, the one that doesn't have the door and entryway in it, and then just pick up this end and wheel it around for short distance travel and shit, and just making it easier to get it onto a trailer and things, so you can just push it up a ramp. The other advantage was going the small, one of the many, is camouflage and placement. So depends on where you are, obviously, but here the way the rules work with the council and stuff, as soon as you've got a freestanding structure that is above the height of the fence, which is at about 2 meters minimum, sometimes it's sort of more like 2.2 or something, but mine's 2.4 and 2.3 at the lowest and highest ends, you have to be the height of that structure away from the fence. Which means for me, I've only got a 1200 by 2400 floor plan, but I need a site that is a minimum, if I'm anywhere near a fence, that is a minimum of 3600 millimeters wide by 4800 millimeters long. So in that space, I could actually fit 4 of my structure, 4 of my units, all stacked together and stuff. But yeah, you could fit 4 of them in the site plan that I require, which is really space inefficient. With the new structure that's at 1.2 meters high, I can go right up against a fence with it. So we return to having a site that is the same size as the floor plan in terms of requirements. So that's really helpful. Also, smaller sizes and lower heights, much easier to camouflage if I were to put it in a quasi-legal space, like in a forest or something like that. It also means that I have a much lower center of gravity and much lower weight, so I'll be able to, at some point in the future, if I wish to, create a really, really simple frame to set the whole thing on that sits on 4 40-gallon plastic barrels, and it'll float, and I'll be able to use it as a wee houseboat raft type thing, and float around on the Avon River here in Christchurch, or any sort of inland river area. We've got a lot of those in New Zealand. We are an island, well, actually several islands, but still. So there's a lot of advantages for me. If it's something you can adapt to, it's really something to look at for tiny housing and stuff like that, is doing a sit-only structure, or at least part of your house being a sit-only space. And certainly for micro housing like I'm doing, and nano housing, the capsule option is really cool. I mean, this sort of stuff's really common in China and Japan. Japan obviously has the famous capsule hotels. China has all these spaces for like poor working people and stuff, where they take like a normal hostel dorm, or like what we'd call a flat here in New Zealand, and in each of the main rooms they line the walls with units like these basically, but too high quite often. So in a standard room you could put 2 to 4 of these against one wall, and then another 2 against another, and now you can have 6 people living in a room. Obviously in those cultures they're much more used to population density issues and things like that, so they're culturally adapted to it. I'm not suggesting we do that here in New Zealand. What I am saying is that it is perfectly functional and entirely possible for a human being to live in a space that only has sitting room, because in the end you come home, you want to relax, you're going to watch television, you're going to draw pictures, listen to music, sleep, or do other things that you do in a bed, and various other things. And none of these things require you to stand. When you do need to stand, it's because you're going to go to the toilet, or you're going to cook, or you're going to shower, or you're going to leave your house area and you're going to go to work or go out or whatever. Now in the case with this unit, we exit the door and I go up to the main house to use the toilet or the shower, or to go to work or do anything else like that. And as you can see, back to point, for a living space, you don't need standing room. You really don't, in my opinion. Maybe it's something not all of you can adapt to, but I certainly can. So the other thing I'm going to do is I have taken, for those of you who watch the V1 blog, you'll remember we have 2 of these battery units, and obviously the 2 panels, 1 panel for each battery. What I've done, as you can see there, is I've linked the 2 panels together. So now instead of having a 5-watt panel charging a battery and then another 5-watt panel charging a battery, I have a 10-watt panel array charging a battery, and then up there on the shelving unit is the other battery that's actually powering the lights and stuff. I'm also running on 1 light usually at night instead of 2. I found I just adjusted where I sit for drawing, and I only need the 1 light now, which lowers my power. I'm not usually charging my tablets and things in here as much as I was. I'm doing various other things to economize on power until With V1, I've already gotten some really good success actually with doing that. Obviously, I'm now charging one battery at twice the speed while using the other one. Usually if I get a reasonable amount of sun, that works. But I'm gearing up for winter where I won't be getting reasonable amounts of sun. So I'm actually going to increase that charge speed by adding another 5-watt panel, making that 15 watts. I don't want to go to 20 watts because at that point the panels at peak charge will start pumping out about 1.2 amps, and these little battery units are only rated to take 1 amp for charge, and I'm not entirely sure that the computer on the inside is able to handle overload without either shutting down and crapping out or just burning out completely, which would be very, very annoying. So we're going to go to 15 watts, which outputs an absolute maximum of about 900 milliamps, and it's totally safe for these batteries to charge off, but it will do so at 3 times the normal speed, which will mean that I should be able to, even in crappy weather, pretty much charge 1 battery per day. And using them as efficiently as I am now, I can actually get them to last for almost 4 days at a time. But what I'll be aiming for is actually a 24-hour change-out cycle, or maybe a 48-hour one. Depends on how much tablet charging and stuff I do off of them. The other thing I'm going to do is buy another 5-watt panel. That one will be tasked only with running my fans for air conditioning during the day, which is obviously when you have peak use, it gets hot in here and you want to run both fans to vent the space and cool it down. At night, to run those fans, I run one of them, and that's only when I'm running my gas cooker for heat. That fan pumps air into the space directly at the gas cooker, ensuring that the gas cooker is always burning a fresh supply of air. That's because you don't want to get carbon monoxide poisoning. Carbon monoxide poisoning happens when you burn anything in an enclosed space, and you start using up all the oxygen in that space, and you begin reburning previously burnt air, at which point you're burning CO2. When you burn CO2, you strip an oxygen molecule off it and you turn it into carbon monoxide, and then you start having yourself some major problems. Don't want to be doing that. So when I'm running my gas cooker for heat, I do it for very short periods of time. I've run a number of tests with it now and I use it regularly. We have no problems at all. I run it for about 5 minutes at a time. Obviously in a tiny little space like this, within 30 seconds you have a noticeable rise in temperature, even running it on low. The only problem I've got is I have no insulation, so I can heat it up to 20 degrees in here in about 2 minutes flat. It's fucking fantastic. Problem is, within 15 minutes of that, I've lost all that heat. So it's nice to warm the place up before I jump into bed and stuff like that, but really I want something that I can, keep the place warm during the dead of winter, during the day if I'm working in here or whatever. So we'll be getting another one of those little 5-watt panels you can see there, just to run the fans during the day. And also, when they're not running the fans during the day, they will be charging this, which I just knocked over. That's a little 3600 milliamp USB type 5-volt battery. My fans are all USB 5-volt type as well. And that will run them at night. They can also run off these batteries as well, and they don't seem to overload them too badly, so that's great. I've got 2 ways to run fans at night for when I'm doing evening air conditioning. And I don't know, if I'm sitting in here with a couple of people and we smoke a big session, or fucking I want to smoke a TaylorMade with the door closed because it's pissing rain and horribly windy or something, I can run both fans at the same time as well, and vent the space, and thus, especially once it's half the size, if you're going to smoke a cigarette in here, it'll get real smoky real quick. So, the other thing I'm doing is I'm going to buy another solar panel. So just to sort of run through this, we're buying 3 new solar panels. 2 of them are 5-watt. As I said, one of them's going for the standard charge unit charge system I've already got to make the charge even faster. The other one's going to be running my air conditioning basically night and day. The third panel I'm buying is going to be a 20-watt panel. As I said before, 20-watt panels output 1.2 amps at peak charge. They give you quite close to an amp even with off-angle sunlight and shit. I've done a lot of calculations and playing around with solar panels now, so I'm pretty good at predicting what they'll be able to output given certain types of weather and whatnot. That one will be set up with what's called a 7805 MOSFET. It's a little electrical component. Actually, I'll jump out of bed here. Oh no, you're making me jump out of my nice cussy bed. Give me a tick. I'm going to go upstairs, so to speak. Where are we at? Ding, ding, ding. Looking around at our storage area. Blah, 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 blah. That's the thing, that's the thing. Where's the rest of them? There they go. This. Oh dear, battery is low. I better hurry up and finish this video. Yep. Okay, cool. This is a 7805. As you can see, it's got a heatsink on it. Normally we mount that to some sort of alloy and stuff. These things do heat up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is, without any circuitry on them, wired as they are here, so you have 2 wires that go to the center line there. One of them is your input negative and one is your output negative, and you have 2 red wires, your 2 positives. Left hand side is your input. right hand side's your output. When you're facing it this way, where you can see the label on the front and the heat sinks on the back side from there. Now basically what happens is you can put anything from about 7.5 up to about 36 volts in this end, and it punches out 5 volts at that end. USB power, very handy. So basically what we're going to do is take that and link one or more of them to the 20 watt panel, and with big heat sinks, because they will get quite hot, reducing that much power and whatnot. But then that 20 watt panel will be taking all that power and turning it into very fast USB charge, which I will use to charge the battery over here that I mentioned before, if it's not being charged off my AC panel, and also the tablet I'm holding, and my USB headphones there, and also for my little drones and radio control planes and stuff I build here. I've got like a little micro charger that charges all the little 1-cell batteries they use. As I've mentioned in other videos, everything I own apart from my tattoo machines runs off USB power. It's a very, very good idea, because my energy needs are very low. Like with all these new panels I'm talking about and stuff, I'm still going to be running a house that literally only has 40 watts of solar panels. And your average house that has solar power runs hundreds and hundreds of watts of solar panels and batteries and stuff. I have 4,000 milliamp hours of battery in 2 of these, and another 3,600 milliamps in this. Shows you the difference in technology, eh? Old school, huge. New school, tiny. Anyway, these are AGM lead acid type batteries, and that's a lithium polymer, so there you go. I would advise anyone going to do this kind of project, go with lithium polymer technology and USB. It's so much lighter and better and cooler. But anyway, you know, I was experimenting with old school stuff that's quick and easy to buy, because as you can see, it's plug and play. And I thought that would be cooler for people. It does work very well, just as it is in summer, but I'm going to modify the shit out of it now, because I know how to do that kind of thing, and fuck yeah. So anyway, the 20 watt panel will be running through one or more of these, and that will be charging all of my devices, so I don't have to load this system very much at all, if at all, in order to charge my basic USB stuff during the day, because I am finding my tablet obviously gets a lot of use, and therefore is running out of charge a lot and needs to be recharged quite often. And yeah, that's putting a big load on the system. And I'd rather this one just run lights and fans and low draw stuff, and occasionally charge my, you know, my headphones and run these lights. So yeah, the new space will have the 2 lights set up. Like I've got one there and one here at the moment on the desk, and I had a third up there in the ceiling. What I'm going to do with the new space, obviously, is that third one up in the ceiling is going to kind of remain, and that one there is going to remain, but this one goes out. So maximum with both lights on, I have to only run 2. And usually I'd only be using one of them at a time. One of them's for when you get in the entry door, and then the other one when I'm sitting up the other end doing my artwork and stuff like that will be the one that I run then. You don't have to run both at the same time very often at all. Again, this reduces my loads and increases the amount of time these batteries will last for. All very good things to do. So yeah, this is just sort of the real quick sum up video. Quick my ass, it's going to be 30 minutes or so almost. Yeah, it almost is. On what I'm going to be doing with version 2. I've had a wee chat with my patron about getting a couple of $100 off them to help me buy the solar panels and some insulation material that I'm going to be using to insulate the space as well, so that it's easier to heat and cool and just generally control temperature wise. Failing funding from them, I will just use my work or whatever else and save up some money. So it might take me a little while to actually complete V2, depending on whether I get funding or not. However, V2 is effectively just recycling parts from V1, so the construction cost itself is free. I've just got to disassemble V1 and then rebuild it differently. And I'll end up with a whole bunch of spare wood and stuff, which I can use to create outdoor decking and maybe some additional shelving or whatever else if I need to and stuff. So yeah, version 2 is really where I start to sort of tweak this project into the final long-term option that I'm going to be using for myself, and also something that I can then advertise to other people and go, okay, look, for $1,000 you can do this, because V1 costs $1,600 to build, and I've now learned enough from it to reduce that cost to about $1,000 for a structure that has more power than V1 does, works more better, has, you know, insulation and all the rest of it. I'm pretty sure I can get that to $1,000 or under now, and obviously it's lighter, easier to move, easier to place, and all the other things I was talking about before due to its size. So better all round. Hence version 2. Yep, that about sums this up. So next video in this series will be Sampey builds a micro house again or something like that. So I guess, yeah, this is video 1. I might not post it until I'm actually going to start the V2 construction in about 2 weeks. So I might post this the day before, and then the next video you get after this one will be, okay, here's all the bits from V1, and today we're building all this new stuff onto the floor and working our way through it. I think I will blog the construction, but like last time, we'll just sort of do a video at the end of each day, sort of going, okay, today I did blah, blah, blah. If you want to learn how to build stuff, go ask other people on the internet. It really just slows my process and fucks with me if I'm trying to like stop every 5 minutes to video shit and show you all how to do building stuff. It is pretty basic. The new one, I'm not entirely sure I will make it disassemblable, but I am still going to put it all together with bolts and stuff. It's just the difference between when I bolt a wall down to the floor, do I line that joint with silicone? And I think I'd prefer to, because that will really help deal with any potential leaks and stuff. Obviously, when we built V1, we did have some leak issues initially. They've been resolved now, but that took like siliconing, let it dry out, check the thing. Okay, we think it's good now. Wait till there's the next rainstorm, then just go, oh no, there's a leak somewhere else now. And yeah, it was a bit of a process. So yeah. The new one, I'm pretty sure I just want to go through and take every freaking joint and utterly fill it with bloody silicone, just to ensure we don't have any issues. Yeah, that's enough from me. So, like I said, next video should be in the daytime and me constructing stuff. You all have a good one.